So appreciate everybody joining. We have a few new faces, I think, today, and it just shows that if you get a big guest star like Tom, everybody wants to come. So I was glad when I saw him sign on this morning, and it said, "Great, we're not gonna have to do shadow puppets or anything." So, um, folks that you probably saw on the invitation, and I was mentioning that World's Fairs set a lot of records. They make a lot of records, but Tom will show us how they also release a lot of records. So without further ado, Tom, if you'd unmute yourself, and I think I probably need to make you a co-host so you can share your screen with stuff. So here, 1 second here. So here's Tommy. You muted, Tom. Tom's going to do something special. He's going to do all silent records for us today.
That's so true.
There you go.
So I was going to ask Bill's here. You need to go first. Are you muted, Bill?
No, we're here. We're ready
He's on
for you whenever you are.
crunch for time.
I'm getting a weird echo when he talks.
All right.
I think there's two computers on in the room.
No, it's. Is that better? Oh, no, it is. So, Bill Morgan, do you want to go first?
Bill Morgan is there looking at you.
Yeah. Bill said he was under a crunch for time, and he's got something, probably the best thing of this presentation.
Okay, welcome, Bill. Why don't you show us the best thing of the presentation then? You're muted, sir. You're muted, Bill. There you go.
There's an unmute button. Wow, isn't that convenient? Well, Tom and I talk on a regular basis. We're, as you know, we're big record collectors, and so we're always catching up on where we are with our collections. And he told me he was going to do this presentation about the New York World's Fair. And I said, well, I have a pretty special record. I don't know if you have this one. And he said no. So he asked if I would like to play this, and I can go ahead and play it, but let me show it to you first if I can bring it up to the screen. So it's a little interview disc with no other than Walt Disney himself. It's open end, which normally has a lot of blanks to go with a script. And but Walt Disney kind of carried it pretty well. There was hardly any soft spots in here, so I will go ahead and play this. But let me note first that when I saw this, I thought, wow, I'd never seen this before or heard anything about it. So there's a little bit of information on the record, and it said featured in the February 11th, 1964 edition of Look magazine. So I thought, well, I'm missing the script because it's open end. I thought, well, maybe it's in Look magazine. So I went out and I found Look magazine. And sure enough, there is, I won't show you every page, but there's a nice 5-page spread of an interview with Walt Disney, but it's not the interview on the record, unfortunately. So the record remains unique. There's also a nice centerfold here with a guidebook attached to the fair. So it's a nice collectible for those collecting World's Fair items, which I think we're talking about today, of course. So With no further ado, if you'd like, I can play this. It is about 6 minutes long.
That's okay.
Great.
Okay.
Bill, does a record have any, is it a Disneyland Records release, a WDL number or anything like that?
Oh yeah, let me let's cover that. It's famous American celebrities series. So I believe it's Garrison. It's got a catalog number of Disney dash, I think it's 164 USA. So not your conventional, DQ number or WDL numbers or even the CR numbers of the radio spots. But that's the only number marking on here. So it is Garrison Systems Limited, which pretty much covered all the interview discs for all the movies and radio spots. So this is going to be played on my little portable record player. So we'll give this a try and see how this works. And I'll just put it up near the speaker and we'll just give me a thumbs up if the audio is okay. If not, I can change it.
Well, back in those days when I was really making nothing but the
Looks
Mickey
great.
Mouse, I always thought of him as a personality. And there were things that he would do, and there were things that he just couldn't do. But it reached a point I never thought of him as a mouse. I thought of him more as a little boy. And that's how Pluto came to be. And it was kind of in Congress that a mouse could have a dog as big as Pluto. Early in the Mickey Mouse series, he started the first one they did. He was a little boy, in effect, in a barnyard with all the other animals. And Lindbergh had just crossed the Atlantic, so he was building his own airplane in the barnyard, and that was the first Mickey Mouse. Now, later on, I got back and I had him as a mouse. And it wasn't well received. The distributor who was handling it for me, he wrote to me and he said, you've done something to Mickey. We've lost him, and it's because I brought him down and thought of him as a mouse. And then I went back and I thought of him the way I originally did. So he went on from there. He's a little fellow. I compared him to Harold Lloyd. Mickey in himself wasn't funny. He was cute. So the situation had to make Mickey funny. Now, when the duck came along, the duck was just the opposite, and he was created to give us another character, an opposite personality. He was comic within himself. So he supplied something that we just couldn't do with Mickey. Mickey it was what I call a situation comic, and the duck was a comic.
This is where the
Pause.
interviewer would be. Yeah, and so can you tell me about what's going on now? Might have been more creative, I would have.
Yes, we were. That was a direct result of our building of Disneyland, where we went into another dimension, what I call a three-dimensional type of shows. And at the New York World's Fair, I think that we've taken a step beyond anything that we have at Disneyland.
So what's at the fair?
So Walt, are you still with us?
Yeah. Here,
We're
I think
doing
it's-
for the
go ahead.
fair for these concerns, we hope will eventually have their permanent home at Disneyland. It's only 2 years, that fair, and when it's over with, I hope that most every one of the exhibits there can be brought back to Disneyland. The big thing with me is Disneyland. I started it. I've got to not only keep it going, but keep it building to a point that it can never be topped. And how many more millions that'll take, I don't know.
Billions.
Yeah, back when millions were big money, huh?
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
Well, movies reached a point where they couldn't quite understand why their people were not coming to the theaters the way they had. And there was a certain panic that set in. So they went for bigger screens. They went for CinemaScope. And, those things are wonderful to have these things. We have the 360-degree screen, but I use it for shows like Disneyland. As far as the movies went, it still comes down to a good story that has an appeal to a broader audience. So at the very time that they're bringing out the widescreens, I even brought one to the theaters that was very successful that had been shot on 16mm film. And then they said everything had to have color. And during this whole binge that they were on, I made one called The Shaggy Dog that was black and white. And it was a very, very successful motion picture. And it proves my point. Regardless of these innovations, wider screens and all of that, and I've gone for all of myself. I mean, I was the first to bring stereophonic sound. I still believe in it. In Fantasia in 1940, at that time with Fantasia, I wanted to put a wider screen. I wanted to double my screen. And I was all set to do it. But the bankers had their foot on my neck, and I had to go along with the conventional, but I still had my stereophonic sound. So I believe in those things, but still, all these things can only go so far. The novelty wears off quick, and if you don't have a good story, if it isn't well produced and it isn't made for what I call the movie audience, the movie audience is a big audience. Of course, you can also make movies for that a small segment, like those who love the foreign movies, and you can make all those movies you want to. But I think the responsibility of anybody operating a studio like we do is to make movies not for that certain 10% or something, but to make it for the masses. And that's what I do, and I love to do that.
Well, that was a great segment.
Seriously, isn't it? It's so candid and genuine and heartfelt. I haven't heard interviews quite like this before. I was really impressed when I
My pleasure.
first played this, and well, you're welcome. And so again, so this is it. It is translucent red vinyl. It's got a couple swirls in it, but it's purple label, which looks kind of familiar to Disney Records, but it is Garrison Systems. So there you go. That's the interview that blew me away when I first heard it. I couldn't believe it. And I found this little gem. I've never seen another one. But
No, it's first for me too.
Any questions?
It doesn't say anywhere who it was addressed to.
Well, Look Magazine.
Oh,
I mean,
the record went to Look Magazine.
Oh, well, all the interview type stuff went to radio stations. So it was
Right.
there should have been a script with this.
Right.
And so the announcer would be, giving the facade that he was doing the interview. So tell me what's going to be at the fair, or whatever he would say.
Yeah,
And then,
you should maybe explain the difference between those records that went out.
sure. So there were promotional records, and you can actually also find out about these in press books. So I have not yet to find a press book to mention this one, but press books can be very revealing of what records that were made for the campaign. So these are really record campaigns. I call them radio spots because they're commonly will have radio commercials promoting a movie, and in addition to that, they would do interviews with the stars of the movie, and another way to promote the movie. So so they would have a complete interview, which would include somebody most likely like Dick Strout would interview the stars. And then they would do what's called an open end. So you could do it yourself as a local DJ at the radio station and pretend you were interviewing Walt Disney or Dean Jones or whatever Disney star of the week that you might have. And they come in all sizes. This is kind of odd. Usually interview discs can be 10 inches or 12 inches, and radio spots are almost always on 12 inches, typically.
You have a few of those in the my collection. It's always interesting as you try to time yourself for the open spot. Well, Dean Jones, you've been in so many Disney movies, how's it feel to be here for? And then all of a sudden Dean starts talking. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little fun. Had I been a little more creative and prepared, could have entertained you with that with the Walt Disney, but hey, I think he speaks for himself. He really holds his own, and it's such a sweet, humble interview. I think that really covered highlights of the whole career up until that point. The mouse, the theme parks, the movies, the fair, just very impressive. It's one of my treasured items in my collection.
Where did you get that? Was that in the magazine?
No, no, no.
eBay,
eBay, of course. Why did I even ask?
highest bidder.
Randy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, in the interview, Disney mentions that he had plans or had thoughts of releasing Fantasia in widescreen.
Yeah.
Were any of the widescreen systems that we know or knew in the 50s and 60s, they weren't available in 1940? Were they even working on such a thing?
Oh, that was super early for that. So I could see why it didn't go, because it wasn't just making it, it was accommodating the theaters, which he had to do for the stereophonic sound, which he actually coined the term Fantasound out of Fantasia. And so theaters had to be wired with additional speakers because they weren't set up for that at that time. So it was very costly for that one, as he calls, gimmick. And yeah, to double down on gimmicks. Yeah, like you said, the banks weren't going to let him do that. They had his, I like that. Well, I don't know if I like that expression, but he said they had their foot on his throat. I thought, wow, that's quite the visual. Oh, but yeah, it was too not cost prohibitive at that time. They'd have to alter all the theaters.
So essentially, he would have had to have had somebody at Disney come up with a widescreen process.
Right.
Yeah, and I can imagine it also be expensive that besides filming it, they'd have to have projectors, bigger screens in buildings, and he was way ahead of himself there.
Yeah, wasn't it a $20,000 investment for the theater?
I believe so, for the Fantasound.
Yeah.
You know. So, but he was the visionary.
Yeah, and I
Thinking
think
ahead.
there were only like 10 theaters in the country that went along.
Well, knowing Walt, he probably had iWorks working on the actual visual part of it, the concept of, and was ready to do it, but they couldn't get the money for it.
Right. Well, great. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Learned something
Thanks a
new
million,
every
Bill.
day.
That's the best of the show. So does anybody want to go downhill from here?
Let's go downhill and join you.
Okay. So Bill, I need you to share the
You've been made
screen.
care host. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
The bottom, it's that green thing.
Oh, okay. Host disabled sharing.
No, hang on again. I will.
So see, I've got my phone up and my computer for the PowerPoint.
Well, whatever you are on that I'm looking at you are what you call a co-host, and are you on a different computer?
Yes.
What would you be signed on as that?
Good question.
Is it Carrie's computer?
No,
Let's see. Participant 447186.
Which I do not see. I see Carrie Brooks, if that's her by any chance,
No,
trying to use her computer, but I don't see anything with that name on it.
so
What?
I'm just wondering if I should bring my laptop over to Sam.
Won't help.
Bring my-
No, you don't have to.
This is still saying unable.
Oh.
Bill, I see Tom Brooks as a co-host on my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my phone.
okay.
Oh,
And and you're trying to use a computer, in the computer, can you see the
trying
rest of
to-
us?
Down here,
This one?
go to the left, maybe.
No, that-
Click on that again. Host
This-
disabled.
It says host disabled participant screen.
What, the computer you're talking about, what's it signed on? What name? Does it say Carrie Brooks?
Lenovo, I think it says Lenovo, Tom's Lenovo or something maybe.
No, the Zoom name, bottom left corner of the screen.
Bottom left corner. Tom Brooks. It says Tom Brooks.
Yeah, I only see one Tom Brooks, and that's you said it's your phone.
Um, well,
So on the computer that you're trying to give the presentation on, can you send a message? Are you able to type in the chat window?
sure.
All right, type in the chat window and let's see who comes up.
First check. Where you check? Yeah.
Okay, hi, Bill. Well, it comes across as owner, which I've never seen before, so I will
Ah.
make that co-host. So I do not know how that happened, because I saw owner was not muted and I tried to mute it and it didn't have that. So I don't know what you've done here, Tom. You've broken.
I put the presentation on our family computer because it has the biggest drive.
All right, give it a try now. So now Tom owns Zoom. Pretty cool.
Okay. You good?
You should be able to share on owner.
You can't see it?
Cannot see it yet. No.
All right, let me try.
somebody named Drew keeps trying to.
We
You got a backup presentation, Bill, in case this doesn't work.
All right,
Now?
we see it now.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, good. Progress. So, like Bill said, there's so many records that were made for the different fairs. And is it? You guys see my chat screen on the side?
Yeah, we can see the chat screen, but
Oh,
when
there
you're
we go.
presenting, you probably can't. So right now we see a screen, our World's Fair stand as a testament. And now it just went to records from the 39 fair.
Great. And then similar to the record Bill showed, you all know about Electra.
Yep, just reading what you've got here.
And everyone was made to believe that he was an interactive robot when in fact, he had his set commands and a 78 record that played his responses to the questions and everything that he was asked. And I have we've all seen the Electra video, and I've just got a short segment of it here.
That's the Middleton family, that movie.
Does anyone else hear the sound? I don't.
Yeah, is this supposed to have sound, Tom?
I'm sorry, Bill, what?
Is this supposed to have sound?
No sound?
No, when you did your share screen, you have to click on the bottom left corner to say optimize for video and share sound. So you probably need to stop stop sharing, and then reshare, clicking those options.
Click.
I
You
need
can
to-
only do it when you start
need to go
sharing.
back.
So stop sharing.
Up here. That's up here.
Carrie's the expert at this.
Yeah, you need to stop
Join audio?
Yeah.
stop sharing your screen.
No, don't leave.
That work?
No, you've got to stop sharing. Tom, you have to stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Okay, great. Now share the screen again, and on the bottom left corner, optimize for video and share sound.
Here.
Anybody good at shadow puppets in between?
Bill, you could sing.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's illegal in
You
33
you and
states.
Carol could do a duet.
Carol could
No,
sing it.
Tom, I feel your pain. I can make a talk, man. I'm really good at that, but the computer I suck at. I
Okay,
know how you feel.
let's give this a try. We can see the screen now.
It's working?
Nope, no sound. Nope, that's really messed up. Tell you what, I think what we need to do is call it quits for today, and then Tom, you and I can do a tech run through another time and get it, because you have some great stuff here, but it'd be bad doing anything about records where nobody can hear them.
Okay.
I'm clicking it.
Automatically.
Wait.
turn audio
Ooh,
on.
ooh. Did we fix it?
So Tom, can you stop sharing the screen?
Is it working?
No, it's not working. Stop sharing
Okay.
the screen.
Do what?
It sounded like we got a bit of sound, but there was a terrible echo.
Oh, yeah, that's. Oh, you guys.
Okay, I turned it off. Tom, we're gonna have to take this another time and do a tech run through on it. I thought you'd had it because I know you were able to share your screen when you did the book thing on the book. So I'm sorry it didn't work out today. And
Hey, Bill,
yeah,
Tom, I think you're getting interference from your phone talking at the same time. Probably
Yeah.
want to turn off your phone audio while you have the other screen going.
but we also didn't hear any sound from it again. So
I heard a
it.
snippet of
Well, it was trying to get sound, but his phone was causing interference, and that's why you're getting the screeching noise.
Okay. Oh,
So Tom, what do you want to do? Do you want to try it one more time, or do we?
I'm up for trying to make it work.
Okay, when you share the screen though, you have to, at the bottom left, optimize for video and share audio, because otherwise the audio is not going to come through. And as Ken is saying, you've got to mute your phone that we're looking at you on, or we're going to
Right.
get 2 sets of audio.
Right. Well, you thought yours, so now we're gonna have 3 sets of audio.
See if it works.
And I no longer see the account labeled owner here.
Oh, yeah, when you said try again, I killed it.
Kind of a shame we're having technical difficulties because this is one of the
Yeah, I'm
largest
really sorry.
we've done in weeks.
Oh, it's starting now.
Very much.
Mhm.
Would someone like to hear a joke?
Sure.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
go
Joey.
ahead, Joey. What?
This is one that a 7-year-old girl told me. What building in New York City has the most stories?
The public library.
You got it.
Huh?
Oh, gee.
The New York
7-year-old
Public
girl.
Library. There you go. Told by a 7-year-old girl while I was having my coffee. I just loved it.
Well, it shows you what level I think at then, a 7-year-old.
That's the best you can do, Joey.
Yeah, that's the best I can do right now.
All right, Tom, owner is back. I've made owner a co-host, so you should be able to share the screen. We're looking at your desktop.
A lot of icons.
Let me do this one.
It's still not working. Did you click those 2 options, optimize for video and share audio?
I'm not.
You can only do that when you start sharing the screen.
Let me start. Okay.
So you've got to stop sharing the screen. Here, I'm going to stop sharing it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Tom, it's just not, Tom, it's just not working. We're going to have to do this another time because it's just not working. And I think we lost Tom. Oh, there's Tom. Well, anyway, I'm sorry it didn't work out today. I will have to get together with Tom to work this out, and we'll do a run through, and everybody gets a refund today.
Yay!
Could be the shortest meeting ever.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Swiss Pavilion at Expo 2010, which looked fabulous on paper. The roof was an alpine meadow, and it was a ski lift. You could ride over it, but it worked for about 3 minutes on opening day. And I was there the second week, and they kept massive crowds were lining up, and they'd come out and say, "You can come back in 4 hours. You can come back tomorrow, whatever." And it never worked. They finally just shut the whole thing down. You could just go into the interior of the building, but yeah, best laid plans.
Well, it's like when we opened Epcot, I think Carol and I saw the pre-show for energy maybe 20 times. And I mean, when we were designing the thing, Brock may appreciate this, they didn't put a lot of crowd control ropes or stanchions or anything in. It was a real mess. So everybody would go in there, and they had this thing with these multiple screens that was supposed to flip and do things. and sometimes they'd be flipping, but not in synchronization with the film. But you finally get through the pre-show and they go, sorry, it's not, the ride itself is not working, come back. So that we go in, and by the time we got there, I think I had the pre-show memorized. And then they finally get, the doors open and we could go in. It was actually working. But that ride had its share of startup issues. Well, I did get my scanner working, and I did get some other neat things. So Tom and I will get this worked out. But I just got a neat reel of a 16mm film of Disneyland in the 60s. So I will be playing with that. I have an entire film I just got on Expo 84 about the importance of the gas industry for the country's energy crises. So I got to do that and get to that. So appreciate everybody joining, and it was good to basically seeing some familiar faces again. I just met Michelle for the first time this past week. Are you back in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania? Everybody's always looking for the unmute button.
No, my stupid mouse wouldn't get over there. No, I live outside of New York City.
Oh, okay.
We did meet before, but it was a long time ago during Destination D when you were doing the World's Fair, but you were with 5 million other people. It was much smaller then.
Yeah, sometimes, you go to a group and there's 1,000 people and somebody say you met and you go, well, we shook hands, but this was nice when we saw in Palm Springs actually be able to chat. So
yes,
that was nicer. So for folks that don't know it, Kathy there, she put on a really nice event in Palm Springs this week, and was great again, seeing some faces you only normally see like that, and then you see them in person.
Or just an eye.
Yeah. Oh, and now Leslie's put up a picture of ice cream. Stop her, please stop her.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
So Bill, you got a couple films you could show us today in the meantime?
I don't know if I have anything that people haven't seen before. I didn't sort anything out. I wasn't expecting to. So I can look here real quick and see. The Wit and Wisdom of Joey Vento, Part 7.
I have another one for Irv if he'd like to hear it.
Yeah, go ahead. I like your sense of humor.
Yeah. Why is again another one told to me by a little kid at the diner? Why is a baker like a boxer?
Because he puts 13 in a baker's dozen. I don't know.
Because he beats the eggs and whips the cream.
Oh, that's sick. I can tell you one, Joey. I'll tell you a story. How many of you people ever went back to your old childhood home that you haven't been to in decades? I always thought it'd be a good idea. So I was originally raised in the Philadelphia area. And after 40 years, I was going to go back to my childhood home and knock on the door and see if the people would be nice enough to let me look inside. So I rang the doorbell and the owner answered and said, I haven't lived here in 40 years. Would you mind if I came inside and looked around just for nostalgia? And my parents said no.
That was pretty good.
But I actually know people that do go back to childhood homes, and sometimes they do get invited in. It would be interesting to see where you used to live.
These days I'd be so suspicious if somebody showed up at my house here and said, could I see your home? I'd be figuring they were getting ready to break into the place.
I was tempted to do that several years ago I was up visiting my sister in San Jose, and we drove by our grandparents' home, and I was so tempted to park and do the same thing, that I thought that this probably would not work out good.
You can go on to Zillow if the home comes up for sale the past couple of years. You can see the photos of how it looks today, and it's usually not the way you're going to like it.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I went to San Pedro to visit the house where my mom was born in the house. I knocked on the door and said, and when the guy came to the door, I said, my mom was born here. He said, come on in. It was great. And got to see the whole house. And later on, then my mom and my uncle, her brother, we were all able to visit, and they told stories about the house and their handprints in the concrete, and everything when the closet was broken through to create a very steep stairway to the attic, and that became my uncle's bedroom, and the view from there of all the ships and everything. And then we went out to dinner and had a grand time. It worked out very well.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
What would be interesting is if you had old photos of the house and show them how it used to look when you were living there, or your folks were living
Yes. Yes, and that was the intent, to find those. My uncle had my grandfather's photos, or maybe my cousin. Anyway, it just never happened, and he got older. At last year, he died at the age of almost 100. So that was the intent, but it didn't happen. If it happens in the future, as the kids start going through the photos that they have, then we'll see. But yeah, that was the intent.
Great. I did find a film that I can show in a second, but Baron has his hand up. Baron, you there?
Yeah, I had to unmute. I got one for you. Guy's walking down the street and he looks over in the window and he sees this woman hitting her husband over the head with a loaf of French bread. The next day he's walking down the street and he looks over and she's hitting him over the head with a loaf of French bread. And it continues to go on, and every day he's walking down the street and look over and this woman's hitting her husband over the head with a loaf of French bread. One day he walks down the street and he looks over in the window and he sees her hitting him over the head with a double layer chocolate cake. Well, confused, he, goes, knocks on the door and he goes, what gives, lady? Every day I see you hitting your husband over the head with a loaf of French bread. She says, oh, today's his birthday.
Keep the day job, Baron.
Of course, Baron and I will be here all week.
With the 9 o'clock show.
Are you performing in the Poconos next week?
Yeah,
I got a better one.
Try the veal. It's excellent. Remember to tip your waiter.
And I got one for you. There's 3 guys going together on an auto trip in a car. One is a physicist, one's a chemist, and one's a software engineer. And as they're driving along, the engine stalls and the car dies. They get out, they open the hood, and they look at it. And the physicist said, obviously, it's a mechanical problem with the engine. And the chemist says, oh, I don't agree. I think you got a problem with your fuel. Could be bad fuel. And the software engineer says, I can fix it easily. All you have to do is roll down your windows and roll them back up again.
I can't unhear these.
I won't tell you anymore.
All right, let me take you to Hershey, Pennsylvania. So hang on one second here. I don't think this has any sound. I know it doesn't have any sound, but I'm so used to saying share sound optimizer video clip today. I'm going to do it. So let me get this here.
Bill, before you run that, okay, I'll tell it after.
Okay, we're at, let me see which year this is. 1 second. Hershey, Pennsylvania, 1974. So again, this has been through the preliminary part of cleaning up, but not the whole thing. So folks, I don't know how many people here have been to Pennsylvania to go to Hershey. It's a combination, take a tour of a theme park and a chocolate factory. They obviously had little kiddie rides in 74. They've gone to a much bigger theme park experience these days with, full-size roller coasters and all the rest of it. But to me, I get a kick out of the simple thing. We had this ride in my hometown, and it was called Tubs O' Fun. And I got myself so sick on this thing that even today, the teacups at Disneyland or Disney World, I don't like them because I keep thinking of the Tubs O' Fun ride. And let's drive around in our little tank, shoot our little machine guns. And so when I do the next phase of restoring this, I'll do more. Actually, what I'm probably going to do in this particular film is totally redo it with the new light source and the new camera and the new scanner, rather than try to fix it all in software. Always a perennial favorite, a petting zoo.
Bill, what was the date on this film?
1974.
Yeah, because it looked like they had a little jet ride of some sort, looked just like the original Astro jets.
Yes, it
I don't know
did.
if yeah.
Yeah, which a
That's
lot
funny.
of people realize
Terry and I were there in 74.
Oh, maybe you'll see yourself.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, the original Astrojets were just an off-the-shelf bought ride. You know, it wasn't designed for Disney. I feel like the Disneyland motorboat ride a little bit better than this one. But, you know, a couple of us were talking the other day about how, you know, everything has changed and you've got to, you know, go for the big giant wow factor and everything. You know, I'm sure these kids in 74 were absolutely thrilled with this thing. For me, the best part, of course, going to Hershey World was the chocolate factory. So, and getting a candy bar.
Bill, it looks like they had two different sky rides. This one and the one in the previous frame was more like the New York World's Fair enclosed gondolas.
Yeah. You know, it's things you wish you had movies of. Carol and I took the kids to Cadbury World in England a number of years ago, and they had a really, really hokey show where they had a button in front of you, and you were told to push the magic button, and you know, harder and faster, faster to save somebody from some terrible event. And I don't think the button was connected to anything whatsoever. I think this, yeah, I've got to get to part 2 of the movie now. But the kids had so much fun pushing that button, being convinced that they were saving, you know, everybody from everything. So it's as Walt said in his thing, it's all about a story, right? And if you get people engrossed in the story and you know, you're all pushing this button, all it did was light up. It didn't do anything else. Which I know from a fact because I got down and looked under it to see, you know, nothing there. But Cadbury World was great. They charge you, I don't remember how much the admission was, say 10 pounds or something. And they gave you candy bars, which were roughly the size of your pinky finger thumb, you know, nail. And the kids were, oh wow, free candy, Dad. Everything relative.
Hey, Bill.
If I were able to show you my camera right now, I've got a Cadbury candy bar sitting here. So I guess the branding worked.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
So we went there in 1976. I don't remember doing any of the rides with the exception of the chocolate ride. But when we went into the museum, the power went out. And if you remember inside that museum, they had atriums on the ceiling. And so the light would still stream through. You could walk around the museum. And one of the cool things that they did that day for us is they pulled out all the musical machines, the old wind-up ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they played several of those, which they never play. And they played several of those machines for us. We got beautiful music on the wheels and things like that was going on.
Oh,
So it was a fun day. It made a lasting impression upon me.
Yeah, that's really neat. The other impression I had of going there was all the chocolate kissed shaped street lights in Hershey. I thought that was a pretty neat gimmick that they did.
They still have that there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just there 2 months ago and I didn't do the only Hershey thing I did was in the museum dedicated to Hershey, you could have a flight of chocolate tastings, hot chocolate tastings. And I thought that was fascinating to me. Just things that came from Africa, things that came from various islands, things that came from South America. But something at Hershey I didn't know about until I just planned to go there was they have an absolutely terrific transportation museum there on 3 floors, mostly cars that are of interest to American males. And it turns out the American Car Collector Association is in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And that's one reason that museum is just outstanding.
Oh, that's good to know. So they gave you hot chocolate? You mean warm chocolate?
Yeah, it was warm, and it's funny. They had something like those little sprayers that circulate and aerate juice drinks, but they must have heated them up to some extent because they had chocolate in a chocolate mix that would go, and they gave you the country of origin, what percentage cocoa is in it, and a little bit of blurb about it, and you could taste them in these little shot glasses and compare them against each other. And I thought that was just fun.
Did you ever get there and go to the original chocolate factory when it was open?
I did in 8th grade, and I'm guessing, Bill, if those were your films, that would have been 74.
Yeah, they had to close it. They were getting so many people to interfere with production. And then they've opened up a World's Fair type of ride where it's a ride through thing you drive through. You ride
Yeah,
through,
we took a
singing
ride
carols,
through
singing the
it.
Hershey song.
We took a ride through it on a conveyor type thing when we were there a number of years ago. But Richard, you think I need to go do a field trip next time I'm in New York. And as I mentioned, branding is everything. Here's my Cadbury bar. So, but Carol and I have taken a lot of trips over the years to various places, factories. And in Pennsylvania, we went to a pretzel factory, and I'm a pretzel fanatic. And I got such a kick out of that. And I thought they would put stuff in an oven, bake it, take it out. I didn't realize they went through the oven at 60 miles an hour, and the oven was, whatever long, and they just, cooked it. But one of the ones we went to a number of years ago is Tillamook, well, they do cheese and ice cream up in Oregon. And it was really great. I mean, they go through, and at the end of it, they had a thing where you could try all the different types of cheese. And then you could buy candy and ice cream and all that sort of thing. But you could also go backwards and go get more cheese. And you could go get something else, and you could go get more cheese. So I think Carol finally had to stop me from going to get some more cheese. But it was great. I enjoyed it. And then they had a thing where you could try, I think it was like 13 flavors of ice cream for $5 or something. And, not giant amounts, but it was fun, try an ice cream flavor you'd never ever try. But I will give people a warning. If you go to the Coca-Cola tour in Atlanta and you can have all the different sodas, has anybody ever tried Beverly?
Sure.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever tried Beverly twice?
Yes, I like it.
Oh, God, Tom.
That is a
That
fun
explains
place.
a lot. No.
That is a fun place to go. Is it still open, Bill? Do you know?
I believe so, yeah.
World of Coca-Cola, but I think they changed locations, didn't they?
Beth
Yeah,
was trying to
it
tell us
moved
something.
several years ago. And it's in a much nicer location now. It's by the new aquarium. So it's in the same little plaza with the new aquarium. So it's a much nicer facility than it used to be.
Yeah,
that taste at the end is so much fun, because the day that I went was on a layover, and there was a bunch of school kids in there, on field trips. And they were daring us to try all these different drinks from around the world, and I mean, some of them are just beyond disgusting, but they're made for the taste of, of that culture or whatever. But they were just laughing at us, they'd say, "Oh, take a big sip," and try to not to spit it out.
Well,
there's some sort of tasting rule where if you try something like 5 times, that you'll get more accustomed to it and like it.
That's like saying if I hit you in the face 5 times, you're going to start liking it.
Yeah.
we went to the World of Coke in Las Vegas, which I don't know if it's still there, but they had the same thing where they came out and they gave it to you, and it was like, well, who wants the Beverly? And it was terrible. But I guess people like it because they still make it or whatever. It's god awful. So,
is it sold here?
What's that?
Is it sold in the U.S.?
I don't know if it's sold here, but they had it at the World of Coke in Las Vegas. That was a number of years ago.
Yeah,
that's still there too. It's right next to the M&M place.
Yeah, no, the M&M place was a lot better than the Beverly. So, but no, we've taken all sorts of tours. We went to the Jelly Belly factory.
I got a dissenting voice. Dissenting voice. The Cool Zone at Epcot. The only drink they haven't changed in all the years I've gone there is Beverly.
That's because they have the first can and they haven't emptied it yet.
But I don't think so. I just think that's the one drink that everybody has to try.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
I mean, if I
I
went
have
back there, I would try it just to see if it's as bad as I remember.
no, I like good. It's a good aperitif.
God, by the way, we're getting some really interesting rain out here right now today.
Yeah.
And, during this week was really nice, but in the last 5 minutes, it's really picking up. So if we start floating away, my poor LAPD partner is having her 40th anniversary today and was supposed to be in the backyard. Didn't happen. So
was this even forecast, Bill? I didn't.
yeah, it
Guess I
was
wasn't looking
forecast
at
for
forecast.
light rain. When I 5 minutes before we started this talk today, it said 0.05 inches of rain today, and we've had well over that beforehand, and it's back again. And then, it's supposed to rain, thunderstorms tomorrow, and the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, more rain. So I'm enjoying it. It's keeping all the hills green. We were out on patrol yesterday looking at the flowers. It was pretty and stuff. So the more rain we get, the less fire danger we have right now.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I've come up with a perfect song for that.
Okay.
The rain came down, the rushing, flooding rivulets. So the river crept out of its bed and worked right into Piglet. Poor Piglet, he was frightened with quite a rightful fright. And so in desperation, the message he did write. He placed it in a bottle and it floated out of sight. And the rain came down, so Piglet started bailing.
That's amazing.
Awesome,
I've heard that
Brian.
song a million times. I could never have told you the actual words.
Yeah, exactly. How do you know the lyrics, Brian?
This is being recorded for posterity. It's always going to be on YouTube now.
That's right.
Well, I was thinking of what you call it. One of the things I really like is when it starts raining in Bambi and that whole sequence.
Mhm.
But right now, the rain outside is more like the Ten Commandments. I mean, we're gonna have to go and part the flood here. It's really coming down. Wow, is it raining near you, Randy?
Yeah, it's kind of a medium rain, not real heavy.
Oh, it's enough that the dogs here are refusing to go out. So
we had that really weird thunderstorm come through here earlier in the week, and it was very spotty. It was here in Long Beach, and then I was watching that show On Patrol Live. Do you ever watch that, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was Fullerton is one of their newer departments, and it was I think they had like a 5-minute delay or something in case something really horrible happens while they're filming. But they were in Fullerton. It was pouring rain, and it was lightning and thunder. I could hear it, and then all of a sudden it was the same thing here. There's kind of I don't think that was forecast at all, or maybe just light drizzle. But
well, we had two weeks in a row where nothing was forecast, and the clouds came in. I describe it like in a Spielberg movie. All of a sudden, the skies get terrible. And 2 miles down the hill, my partner said, the rain was washing the patio furniture away, and we had nothing. I mean, it's so localized. And I don't watch a lot of those. My daughter, by the way, Randy, was addicted to those shows. I don't watch them too much because I'm sitting there thinking, we don't do it that way. Oh, ouch. Ooh, no. So after a while, you see it during the week all week. I watch silly stuff. We're addicted right now. I hate to admit it, Carol and I, Green Acres. So
that is actually a good show. I think as kids we didn't get the humor. You know what I mean? There's an episode where Lisa, Ava Gabor is reading the names, she calls it. It's at the opening credits. I laugh at that so hard every time. You know what I'm hooked on? I'm really ashamed to admit it. When I remember the TV series Peyton Place.
Yeah.
It was the first nighttime soap. And it was too adult. My mother wouldn't let us watch it. So somebody told me it's on YouTube, so I started watching it. And I've really got hooked on it. Of course, I'm up to episode like 47 of like 500 and 47 shows.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, how could they have had that many? Then I, looked it up on Wikipedia. The first couple seasons, it was 2 times a week. The height of its popularity was 3 times a week. And then it went back down to 2 times a week as the popularity started to wane. But it's fascinating to see all the people that got their start in that show. And you see faces all the time that you recognize from other TV shows, TV character actors. And but they rarely show them in the credits. They show just the main cast in the credits, opening and closing. So I'm constantly having to go back over to Wikipedia and look up each, episode to see who was in it. So yeah, I was right. That was actually Whit Bissell. Yeah, Whit Bissell was in one of them.
Oh, he was in everything. Yeah.
Actually, he's kind of a semi-regular, but yeah.
Well, I tell you, I've been binge watching some British television. I'm convinced the entire British acting industry consisted of 83 people.
Yes, I know. And most of them were in Downton Abbey.
Oh, yeah, no, these were ones from the 50s and 60s.
Oh, okay,
And what was really, you start wondering about casting when somebody's in an episode and they're playing like a chief inspector, Dreyfus or something. And 2 weeks later, the same guy's in there, he's an axe murderer. And you go, I'm supposed to have forgotten this guy in 2 weeks, and they would, you read sometimes about it. It says the guest star of that week came down with appendicitis and they needed something in a hurry. And, go get him, sort of thing. Baron, you have your hand up. You going to tell us another one?
No, I was going to tell Randy that the secret to actually watching Green Acres is to not watch it, but listen to it as you would if you were just listening, intently to a radio show. That happened to me about 30 years ago or so when I was, I guess, I don't know, in grad school or something like that, and it happened to come on early one morning as I was waking it up. And you know how you're in that state of, somewhat consciousness, but you can hear things, but things are fresh. And Green Acres had come on and I'm listening to it and I just could not stop laughing at every line or the jokes that they had made. And I wasn't even watching it. And I've learned from then that really appreciate that humor of Green Acres. You just got to listen to it and you'll laugh so hard by doing that. I'm sure you can do that with other shows like Beverly Hills and Phillies and the other ones, but it was Green Acres is what did it for me. And give it a try. It's on every night at 9:30 on MeTV, but half the time you got it on and you're getting ready for bed or you're doing something, so you're not consciously listening to it. It's just there. But give it a try. Listen to it without watching it. And I guarantee you'll laugh like crazy.
It was.
I like to watch it and listen to it. I think it's got some very clever humor. Like you mentioned Lisa with the credits. There were credits on eggs. There were credits on doors. There were credits in different shows, and it was so. And she was the only one that could see it, of course.
I don't know. Right now, I see names on everybody, so maybe I'm turning into Lisa.
Well, and then there's the music that plays whenever Eddie Albert starts making one of his, Great American Farmer speeches.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Other people hear it, but he doesn't.
Years ago,
that show is really much better written, I think, than the other rural CBS rural shows. They weren't called that at the time, but when they had the rural house cleaning, and was it 1972, and they got rid of all those shows like in one fell swoop.
Years ago, I was talking to Alvy Moore, who played Hank Kimball, and we were talking about his Disney career and science fiction career and everything. And at one point, I said to him, I got to tell you, you're in one of my all-time favorite shows, Green Acres. I said, well, actually, it wasn't my all-time favorite. It was one of the top 10. Actually, it was, I don't know, there were about 20 of them that I really liked. That show really stunk. And he laughed. And I said, you must get tired of that. He goes, I'm not tired of it. I'm sitting in the house that paid for. Yeah. I just couldn't resist. Just like everybody hears my name, they have to tell me a welcome back Cotter joke. But I mean, he was just really funny to talk to, and he had some great Walt stories. So
Well, Albie Moore is one of the best, I think of that cast. Yeah,
Excuse me, you might enjoy this. This is Disney calling to tell us to make sure we vote our proxy votes. No, Albie was great.
You know, one of my favorite TV character actresses, and she was in some movies too, is Madge Blake. She played Mrs. Mondello on Leave It to Beaver, and Florrie McMichael on The Real McCoys. She was on every TV show, and she's always in this wide variety of professions. Well, a friend of mine one time, we're both into these old shows, and we both really like Leave It to Beaver. So she's Larry Mondello's mother on Leave It to Beaver, and in that storyline, before she married Mrs. Mondello, she was a dental nurse. Well, if you go look at like I Love Lucy and all these shows where she's been on, and she was in Singing in the Rain, she played the gossip reporter at the very beginning. He made this timeline of Madge Blake, her career, but as a fictitious character, not as an actress. Like she started out in the early 50s as a gossip reporter, then became a dental nurse, and then he kept going on and on. And I mean, just this timeline, you just realize how many things she was in.
Well, it's again, thank God we have old TV, because we watch very, very little, of what's on today. So
same here.
We tend to binge watch, various odds and ends, and Tom's dog is there. Look at that. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's great we're able to see it. It's interesting. Anybody, I don't know if people remember the show Elliot Smith and Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I started watching that, and I was having I don't know if I'd seen it since it had been on, but I was having this real feeling of deja vu. And I started reading about it. Well, it turned out Roy Huggins, one of the producers, just kept recycling scripts from other shows. So they had the entire plot of an episode of The Virginian was now in Elliot Smith and Jones. And he took an entire plot out of Maverick, and it was in Elliot Smith and Jones. And he took but back then you could get away with it because people hadn't seen this stuff. But literally, I think I'm like 8 episodes into it, and 7 of the 8 episodes have all been things he recycled. He just, cut out the name and put in, Thaddeus Jones. It's just a weird feeling when you've seen the episode and it's just somebody else saying, the words.
Yeah, you'll see that in Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery's husband at the time was, I can't think of his name.
Bill Asher.
Yeah, Bill Asher, and he had been involved with I Love Lucy. Some of the Bewitched scripts are literally, some of the scenes in that script are word for word from I Love Lucy.
And it all worked back then, right? So it's great fun. Yeah, the people. Yeah, as Carol said, we're gonna have to go look for more names on eggs, or I'm gonna have to have. What's really bad is when you can't remember which I had for lunch yesterday, but you remember that their chicken's name was Henrietta. It's life has gone weird. Thank you for singing the Piglet song for us. That's the high point of my day. And you and I will have to get together, and we'll find a time to make this work. And sorry we had some issues today, but we will get there. And from what I see, it's going to be well worth waiting for.
Yeah, so it's a bad omen when you had the wrong date on the Zoom talk.
Well, that's why I threw Tom off with that. So
you threw me off too. Yeah,
I see it says Zoom chat for 3:24. Well, I have to fix that when I post this on YouTube. It's all week long, for whatever reason. I've kept thinking that it was the day ahead. So I'd be getting to the station, filling out the paperwork. Even yesterday, people said it's the 22nd. Oh, okay. So that my brain's a day ahead. I'm living in the future, and it's glorious.
Hey, with that kind of memory, you could run for president, Bill.
I think you might have told me that before, but I don't remember.
Well, thanks to Brian for that song. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was great.
And Tom, I look forward to. It looks like a really interesting presentation, so I can't wait for you to do it.
Thank you, Joy.
I do have one more joke, and then I've got to go.
Ah, all
This is a
right.
joke for the group. What do you call, and this is from Jess, what do you call a cow with no legs?
Ground beef.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I can't even get a good the punchline out. Yeah, you're right. Ground beef.
I was gonna say veal cutlet, but that's.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe next time I'll
Bye,
be more
Bill.
successful.
All right, Joey, I got one for you then. What do you call a
Okay.
man with no legs and no arms that lies in front of a door?
Matt.
Okay, right. You know, one of the advantages in air quotes of still being involved in Boy Scouts is I still get the Scouting Life magazine, which used to be called Boys Life until gals joined the program. And the back 2 pages are the worst god awful jokes that you ever get.
Yeah, I think that's where that came from.
Yeah, so I think sometimes I pick up and start reading the issue of Scouting Life magazine, and Carol leaves the room because she doesn't want me to start reading some of the terrible jokes. But they're so stupid, and I'm convinced they're the same jokes they were in there when I was 8 years old and getting it for the first time. So
Hey, I've got a caution for you. Don't be like my neighbor. He left the super glue next to his wife's lipstick, and she hasn't talked to him since.
That's good, Wayne.
Bill, I learned something.
Yep.
I had always wondered what happened to Boys Life. I didn't realize it had just changed names. That was always, one of my favorite magazines growing up.
yeah, it's still there, and they still have. I mean, some things changed. A couple of years ago, they had Pedro the Burro. We're really going down a hole here, but Pedro the Burro was the male burro, and he, people would write letters, and he would do something else. For whatever reason, they retired Pedro, and now they have an eagle. Makes the same god awful, snappy comebacks. But you still got Pee Wee and some of the other stuff. I mean, the magazine is about like every other magazine, 1/6 of the size that it used to be. But it still comes out, and about 3-4 years ago, they named the top 7 Boy Scout camps in the country, and the one that Richard and I worked at was one of the top 7 camps. So the magazine still gets it right. So
by the way,
about
that joke column, I read in that joke column that the jokes are actually adult humor because all of the jokes are more than 21 years old.
Boy, we're on a roll today. We're going to take the Saturday Zoom on tour. Well, we'll be back next week. If Tom and I are able to coordinate between now and then, it will be Tom. If it's not, it will be something else. And look forward to seeing folks. And I know back east they were predicting terrible, terrible flooding. I hope it doesn't come to be. I hope Leslie gets her ice cream. And I hope Joey finds a joke that isn't instantly answered for next week.
Well, the short sessions makes up for last week, is around 2.5 hours.
Well, the people can leave anytime they want, and I'm going to leave now.
So I guess
See you
we are
next
too.
week.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.